The International Harvester Company, now Navistar International Corporation, was a United States agricultural machinery, construction equipment, vehicle, commercial truck, and household and commercial products manufacturer. In 1902, J.P. Morgan merged the McCormick Harvesting Machine Company and Earing Harvester Company, along with three smaller agricultural equipment firms, to form International Harvester. International Harvester sold off its agricultural division in 1985 and renamed itself Navistar International Corporation in 1986. The Case IH brand began when the IH agricultural division merged into JI Case. History. Founding of the company. The roots of International Harvester run to the 1830s, when Cyrus Hall McCormick, an inventor from Virginia, finalized his version of a horse-drawn reaper, which he field demonstrated throughout 1831, and for which he received a patent in 1834. Together with his brother Leander J. McCormick, McCormick moved to Chicago in 1847 and started the McCormick Harvesting Machine Company. The McCormick reaper sold well, partially as a result of savvy and innovative business practices. Their products came onto the market just as the development of railroads offered wide distribution to distant market areas. He developed marketing and sales techniques, developing a vast network of trained salesmen able to demonstrate operation of the machines in the field. McCormick died in 1885, with his company passing to his son, Cyrus McCormick, Jr. in 1902. The McCormick Harvesting Machine Company and Earing Harvester Company, along with three smaller agricultural equipment firms, merged to create the International Harvester Company. In 1919, the Parlin and Arendtive factory in Canton, Illinois was a leader in the plow manufacturing industry. International Harvester purchased the factory, calling it the Canton Works. It continued production for many decades. The golden years of IH. In 1926, IH's Farmer Works began production in a new plant in Rock Island, Illinois, built solely to produce the new Farmall tractor. By 1930, the 100,000th Farmall was produced. IH next set their sights on introducing a true general-purpose tractor designed to satisfy the needs of the average U.S. family farmer. The resulting letter series of Raymond Loewy-designed Farmall tractors in 1939 proved a huge success, and IH enjoyed a sales lead in tractors and related equipment that continued through much of the 1940s and 1950s, despite stiff competition from Ford, John Deere and other tractor manufacturers. IH ranked 33rd among United States corporations in the value of World War II production contracts. In 1946, IH acquired a defense plant in Louisville, Kentucky, which was enlarged, expanded, and re-equipped for production of the Farmall A, B, and the new 340 tractors. Then in 1948, IH acquired the Metropolitan Body Company of Bridgeport, CT. This was the manufacturing facility for the bodies of the commercially successful Metro line of Ford control vans and trucks from 1938 until roughly 1964. In 1974, the 5 millionth IHC tractor was produced at the Rock Island Farmall plant. Throughout the 1960s and 1970s, despite good sales, IH's profit margins remained slim. The continual adding of unrelated business lines created a somewhat unwieldy corporate organization, and the company found it difficult to focus on a primary business, be it agricultural equipment, construction equipment, or truck production. An overly conservative management, combined with a rigid policy of in-house promotions, tended to stifle new management strategies as well as technical innovation. Products with increasingly ancient technology continued in production year after year despite their marginal addition to sales. Worse, IH now not only faced a threat of stiff competition in each of its main corporate businesses, but also had to contend with greatly increased production costs, primarily due to labor and government-imposed environmental and safety regulations. Downfall. In 1979, IH named a new CEO, who was determined to improve profit margins and drastically cut a ballooning cost structure. Unprofitable model lines were terminated, and factory production curtailed. By the end of the year, IH profits were at their highest in 10 years, but cash reserves were still too low. Union members became increasingly irate over production cutbacks and other cost-cutting measures. In the spring and summer of 1979, IH began short-term planning for a strike that seemed inevitable. Then on November 1, IH announced figures showing that President and Chairman Archie McAdell received a $1.8 million bonus. McAdell sought overtime, work rule, and other changes from the UAW, which led to a strike on November 2, 1979. Soon after, the economy turned unfavorable, and IH faced a financial crisis. The strike lasted approximately 6 months. When it ended, IH had lost almost $600 million. By 1981 the company's finances were at their lowest point ever. The strike, accompanied by the economy and internal corporate problems, had placed IH in a hole that had only a slim way out. Things only got worse until 1984, when the bitter end came. International Harvester, following long negotiations, agreed to sell its agricultural products division to Tenneco, Incorporated on November 26, 1984. Tenneco had a subsidiary, J.I. Case, that manufactured tractors, but lacked the full line of farm implements that IH produced. Following the merger, tractor production at Harvester's Rock Island, Illinois farm works ceased in May 1985. Production of the new Case IH tractors moved to the J.I. Case Tractor Works in Racine, Wisconsin. Production of IH axial flow combines continued at the East Moline, Illinois Combine Factory. Harvester's Memphis Works in Memphis, Tennessee was closed and cotton picker production was moved. The truck and engine divisions remained, and in 1986 Harvester changed the corporate name to Navistar International Corporation. Navistar International Corporation continues to manufacture medium and heavy-duty trucks, school buses, and engines under the International brand name. Divisions and products. Agriculture. The International Harvester Agricultural Division was second to the Truck Division but was the best-known IH subsidiary. When IH sold the Agricultural Products Division to Tenneco in 1985, the International Harvester name and IH logo went with it. One of the early products from the newly created International Harvester Company was the traction truck, a truck frame manufactured by Morton Traction Truck Company with an IHC engine installed. From 1902, when IH was formed, to the early 1920s, the McCormick and Deering dealerships kept their original brands unique, with Mogul tractors sold at McCormick dealers, and Titan tractors at Deering dealerships, due to the still present competitiveness of the former rivals. The early tractors. IH produced a range of large gasoline-powered farm tractors under the Mogul and Titan brands. Sold by McCormick dealers, the Type C Mogul was little more than a stationary engine on a tractor chassis, fitted with friction drive. Between 1911 and 1914, 862 Moguls were built. These tractors had varied success but the trend going into the mid-1910s was small, and cheap. The first important tractors from IH were the Model 10-20 and 15-30. Introduced in 1915, the tractors were primarily used as traction engines to pull plows and for belt work on threshing machines. The 10-20 and 15-30 both had separate, but similar, Mogul and Titan versions. Around this time, IHC purchased a number of smaller companies to incorporate their products into the IH dealer arsenal. Parlin and Arendif, also known as P&O Plow and Chattanooga Plow, were purchased in 1919. Other brand names they incorporated include, but are not limited to, Keystone, DM Osborne, Kemp, Meadows, Sterling, Weber, Plano and Champion. In 1924 IH introduced the Farmall tractor, a smaller general-purpose tractor, to fend off competition from the Ford Motor Company's Fordson tractors. The Farmall was a leader in the emerging row crop tractor category. Following the introduction of the Farmall, IH introduced several similar-looking F-Series models that offered improvements over the original design. In 1932 IH produced their first diesel engine, in the McCormick Deering TD40 Crawler. This engine started on gasoline, then switched over to diesel fuel. Diesel engines of this era were difficult to start in cold weather, and using gasoline allowed the engine to start easily and thoroughly warm up before making the switch to diesel in all weather conditions. In 1935 this engine was put in the International Harvester WD-40, becoming the first diesel tractor on wheels in North America. The Letter and Standard Series. For model year 1939, industrial designer Raymond Loewy was hired to design a new line of tractors. The sleek look, combined with other new features, created what is known as the Farmer Letter Series, and the McCormick Deering Standard Series. 1941 saw the introduction of the Model MD, the first row-crop diesel-powered tractor. It would be over a decade before IH's biggest competitor would introduce a diesel option on their row-crop tractors. The Letter Series tractors were updated to the Super Series in 1953 and received several improvements. Many of these tractors are still in operation on farms today. Especially desirable are the diesel-powered MD, WD6 and WD9. These tractors carried forward the unique gasoline-start diesel concept of the WD-40. The Letter and Standard series of tractors was produced until 1954, and was a defining product in IH history. In 1947, the smallest tractor in the Farmer line was introduced, the Cub. With a 60 cubic inches four-cylinder engine and a 69-inch wheelbase, the Cub was aimed at small farms such as truck farms, horse farms, and other small acreages that had previously continued to rely on horse-drawn equipment. Like the various John Deere LLI models, one of the mechanization-resistant markets it hoped to penetrate was the small, poor, one-mule family farms of the rural American Deep South. But the Cub also sold to owners of larger farms who required a second tractor. Production of the Cub commenced at the newly acquired Farmer Works Louisville plant, which was expanded, remodeled and re-equipped. Selling for $545 in 1947, the Cub proved extremely popular, and the original design continued in production without significant alteration until 1979. For 1955 in IH tractors, the numbered 100 series was offered. Although given slightly different looks and few new features, they were still updates to the models introduced in 1939. The only new tractor in the 1955 lineup is the 300 utility. In 1957 IH gave the tractor lineup another update by increasing power in some models, adding a new 230 utility model, and adding new white paint to the grille and sides, and giving new number designations. This improved sales at the time, but IH's inability to change and update was already showing. 60 series recall. In July 1958, IH launched a major campaign to introduce a new line of tractors to revitalize slumping sales. At the Hinsdale, Illinois testing farm, IH entertained over 12,000 dealers from over 25 countries. IH showed off their new 60 series of tractors, including the big, first of its kind, six-cylinder 460 and 560 tractors. But the joy of the new line of tractors was short-lived. One of the first events that would eventually lead to the downfall of IH presented itself in 1959. In June of that year, IH recalled the 460, 560, and 660 tractors. Final drive components had failed. IH, who wanted to be the first big power manufacturer, had failed to drastically update the final drives on the new six-cylinder tractors. These final drives were essentially unchanged from 1939 and would fail rapidly under the stress of the more powerful 60 series engines. IH's competitors took advantage of the recall, and IH would lose customers in the ensuing months, with many customers moving to John Deere's new generation of power tractors introduced in 1960. 1960s. Throughout the 1960s IH introduced new tractors and new sales techniques. As producing tractors was the lifeblood of the company, IH would have to remain competitive in this field. They both succeeded and failed at this goal. But farming was about to change, and IH and its competitors were in for a bumpy ride. In 1963 IH introduced the 73 LHP 706 and 95 LHP 806 tractors. In 1964 IH made its 4 millionth tractor, an 806. In 1965 IH introduced its first 100 HP two-wheel drive tractor, the 1206. Another option became available in 1965 for the 706, 806 and the new 1206, a factory-installed cab. This cab is often called the ice cream box cab due to its shape. The cab could be equipped with a fan and heater. By 1967, over 100,000 models 706, 806 and 1206 were built. The 276 International Harvester was also built at this period of time, becoming popular for smaller farms with tighter lanes and fields due to mobility and weight, making the 276 a popular seller, boosting International Harvester's slim profits. 1967 saw the introduction of the 56 series tractors as replacements for the successful and popular 06 series. These new 56s were bigger and more powerful than the 2006s. The new models included the 65 HP 656, 76 HP 756, the 101 HP 856 and the 116 HP 1256. The ice cream box cab was still an option. In 1969 IH introduced the 1456 Turbo at 131 HP. Also that year, the 91 HP 826 was introduced with the option of gear shift or hydrostatic transmissions. The ice cream box cab was dropped and replaced with the new custom cab made by Excel Industries, which could be equipped with factory air conditioning, heat and an AM radio. Another milestone for IH was the 1970 introduction of the 1026 Hydro, which was basically a hydrostatic version of the 1256, at that time the most powerful hydrostatic transmission tractor made in the U.S. at 114 HP, 1970s. In 1971 IH introduced the 66 series line. The new models included the 78 HP 766, the 101 HP 966, the 125 HP 1066 Turbo, the 145 HP 1466 Turbo, and the 145 HP 1468 V8. The 130 HP 4166 4WD was also introduced. The 966 and 1066 were available with hydro or gear shift transmissions and the choice of two poster OPs or two different cabs, the Custom, and the Deluxe. Both could be equipped with AC, heat, and AM/FM radios. In 1972 the 666 replaced the long-running 656, the 150 HP 1568 V8 replaced the 1468, and the 160 HP 1566 and the 163 HP 4366 4WD were introduced. Also later that year, 4-poster OPs replaced 2-post. The custom cab was dropped and the deluxe cab was now painted red instead of white. Due to horsepower confusions, the 966 and 1066 Hydro models were restriped. The Hydro 100 and the 666 Hydro became the Hydro 70. On February 1, 1974 at 9 a.m., the 5 millionth tractor came off the assembly line at the Farmall plant in Illinois. IH was the first tractor manufacturer to accomplish this. Also in 1973, IH officially dropped the Farmall name from its tractor. This ended an era that began with the first Farmall regular back in 1924. The 230 HP 4568 V8 4WD was introduced in 1975. In 1976 the entire tractor line got a new paint job and decal pattern. No longer were the side panels all white with chrome and black decals, they were now all red with a black striped sticker. This was done to clear inventory for the forthcoming Pro Ag line. In September 1976 IH released their 86 series Pro Ag line. The models included the 80 HP 786, the 90 HP 886, the 101 HP 986, the 104 HP 186 Hydro, the 135 HP 1086, the 146 HP 1486 and the 161 HP 1586. These new tractors had a new cab dubbed the Control Center that came standard with AC, heat, and several radio CB options. The driver sat well ahead of the rear axle and the fuel tank was mounted behind the cab over the rear axle. This increased balance and ride. Also in 1976, the 62 HP 686 along with the 86 series four-wheel drives were introduced, including the 4186, 4586, and 4786. In 1977 International Harvester introduced the first axial flow rotary combine. This machine, produced at East Moline, Illinois, was the first generation of over 30 years of axial flow combines. In 1979 IH introduced two all-new tractors, the 3388 and 3588, known as the 2+2 4WD line. These tractors were the result of taking two 1086 rear ends and hooking them together with a transfer case. A year later, the 3788 was introduced. Despite the fact these tractors performed well in the field, they never sold well. 1980s. As the 1980s began, IH was ready to climb from its own depression and become a leader once more. IH would face a stable economy, yet it would face an unknown fate. In September 1981, IH announced at a dealership meeting the new 50 series of tractors, which included the 136 HP 5088, the 162 HP 5288 and the 187 HP 5488. IH also released the 30 series, which included the 81 HP 3088, the 90 HP 3288, the 112 HP 3488 Hydro and the 113 HP 3688. These new tractors would prove once again that IH had the innovation to come out on top. Designed and styled by IH industrial designer Greg Montgomery, whose firm later designed the Case IH Magnum Series tractors, the new stylish design of the 50 series and 30 series would change the look of tractors from that time forward. IH spent over $29 million to develop this new series, and the result was the last great lineup of tractors from International Harvester. There were many technology-related innovations in the new series. A computer monitoring system was developed, and IH became the first manufacturer to add a computer to a farm tractor. Other innovations included a Z-shift pattern, an 18-speed synchronized transmission, a Ford airflow cooling system which sucked air from above the hood and blew it out the front grille, power priority 3-pump hydraulic system, color-coded hydraulic lines and controls, and a new rear hitch system. The 50 series had an unprecedented 3-year or 2,500-hour engine and drivetrain warranty, which would later become an industry standard. Although no new sales records were set, IH sold a respectable amount of these tractors during its short production time. IH also released the 60 series 2+2s, and planned on making the Super 70 series 2+2s, but only a handful of these exist today. On May 14, 1985, the last IH tractor rolled off the factory line, a 5488 FWA. IH was well into the development of a new line of tractors that would revolutionize the ways of farming when the sale of the Agricultural Products Division was announced. Many of these new features would find their way into the new series of Magnum tractors introduced by Case IH in 1987. Brand names of the Ag Division. IH over the years used a number of brand names to market their tractor and harvesting products: International, Titan, Mogul, McCormick, Deering, McCormick, Farmall, Fairway, Electoral, other agricultural products. Along with the prominent tractor division, IH also sold several different types of farm-related equipment, such as balers, cultivators, combines, combine heads, corn shellers, cotton pickers, manure spreaders, hay rakes, crop dusters, disc harrows, elevators, feed grinders, hammer mills, hay conditioners, milking machines, planters, mills, discs, plows and various miscellaneous equipment. Also produced were twine, stationary engines, loaders, and wagons. Electoral. The Electoral system was introduced in 1954. It was a short-lived attempt to market electrically operated farm equipment and accessories. The system, co-developed with General Electric, consisted of a 208V three-phase alternating current generator connected with electric cables to the device to be powered. The generator could even power a household. A 10-kilowatt electrical generator was an option on the Farmall 400 tractor, and there also was a 12.5 kilowatt PTO-driven version. The possible applications of electrical power were many, but few made it to market. IH marketing materials showed a hybola being electrical powered. One of the more novel applications of the electrical was a device to electrocute insects in the field at night. Vehicles, light-duty trucks. IH is often remembered as a maker of relatively successful and innovative light lines of vehicles, competing directly against the Big Three. The most common were pickup trucks. IH made light trucks from 1907 to 1975, beginning with the Model A auto wagon. Production commenced in February 1907 at IH's McCormick Works in Chicago, although production was moved to Akron, Ohio in October that year. Powered by a horizontally opposed air-cooled twin of around 15 HP, it was a right-hand drive model popular in rural areas for high ground clearance on the poor roads typical of the era. It featured a rear seat convertible to a carrier bed. The auto wagon was renamed the motor truck in 1910, and was a forerunner to the successful modern pickup truck. They were called IHC until 1914, when the international name was first applied. The final light line truck was made on May 5, 1975. IH also had early success with the auto buggy, which started production in February 1907. In the mid-1940s, International released their K and KB series trucks, which were more simplistic than other trucks released in that era. This was followed by the L series in 1949, which was replaced by the A series in 1952, followed by the S line in 1955. In 1957, to celebrate IH's golden anniversary as a truck manufacturer, this was replaced by the new A line. A stands for anniversary. With light modifications to its appearance but more serious changes under the shell, this design continued in production until replaced by the 1100D in late 1969, which looked very similar to the Scout. Corresponding with the truck letter lines was the Metro line of step vans. Starting in 1938 and manufactured through 1975, the Metro series was produced and updated with each iteration of IH's truck lines. There were also special-use variants such as the Metro Coach and Metro front-end section and chassis for full commercial customization. Additional variants were based on the medium-duty engine and chassis lines. One of the company's light-duty vehicles was the Travelall, which was similar in concept to the Chevrolet Suburban. The Travelette was a crew cab, available in 2- or 4-wheel drive. A 3-door version was available starting in 1957, and a 4-door version was available starting in 1961. The 1961 Travelette 4-door was the first 6-passenger, 4-door truck of its time. The Scout, first introduced in 1961, is a small 2-door SUV, similar to a Jeep. In 1972 the Scout became the Scout II, and in 1974 Dana 44 axles, power steering and power disc brakes became standard. After the light line pickups and Travelall were discontinued in 1975, the Scout Traveller and Terra became available, both with a longer wheelbase than a standard Scout II. IH would abandon sales of passenger vehicles in 1980 to concentrate on commercial trucks and school buses. Today the pickups, Travellalls, and Scouts are minor cult orphan vehicles. All were also available as rugged 4-wheel drive off-road vehicles. The Scout and light truck parts business was sold to Scout Light Line Distributors, Incorporated in 1991. Medium heavy-duty, IH was an early manufacturer of medium heavy-duty trucks. Although based upon truck chassis, IH also became the leading manufacturer of the chassis portion of body-on-chassis conventional school buses. In 1962 IH offered the International Harvester Lodestar, which became the premier medium-duty truck. In 1978 IH offered the International Harvester S-Series, which replaced the Lodestar in 1979. With the truck and engine divisions remaining following the 1985 sale of the agricultural division, International Harvester Company changed their corporate name to Navistar International in 1986. Today Navistar International's subsidiary, International Truck and Engine Corporation, manufactures and markets trucks and engines under the International brand name. The Power Stroke diesel engine, which is a trade name of Ford Motor Company, is manufactured by International Truck and Engine Corporation in Indianapolis, Indiana, for use in Ford heavy-duty trucks, vans and SUVs. Military, IH manufactured light, medium, and heavy vehicles for military use. Examples include a Metro van sold to the Czechoslovakian Army in 1938, as M5 tractors and 2.5-ton M5 Hours 6 trucks for the U.S. Navy and Marines in 1942, and approximately 3,500 2.5-ton M5-6-318 cargo trucks provided mostly to Soviet Union and China. Motorhomes. In the 1970s, motorhomes were manufactured using IHC engines and bare chassis. Most of the bodies were constructed of fiberglass. Overseas subsidiaries: Australia, Utility, Australian Army Designs, International Harvester Australia, a subsidiary of the U.S. manufacturer, had a long relationship with the Australian Army with the US-designed AS-series trucks in the early 1950s. The AS-164 2X4 used as a tractor unit and the 2X4 AS-161 used as a tray-back troop transport. The association between International Harvester Australia and the Australian Army developed, and in conjunction with the Army Design Establishment of the Australian Commonwealth Department of Supply, designed and constructed a range of trucks for the Australian Army. With body loosely based upon the design of Cab 13 of the Canadian military pattern truck, the first prototype built in 1959 was the International Truck Cargo 2, a 1/2-ton general service, Australian No. 1 Mk1, which was followed by the Mk2 prototype. A variant with a mid-mounted 20,000-pound winch resulted in the first production model, the Mk3, entering service in 1963, just in time for Australia's entry into the Vietnam War. A 5-ton 6x6 version was to follow with three major variants: the Truck Cargo 5-ton with winch F1, which replaced the Mk3 in Vietnam service; the F2, a tipper version that replaced the International Harvester AB-160 teaspoon tipper in both Vietnam and Borneo theaters of operations; the F5 wrecker with a lack of 4x4 2 and 1/2-ton trucks available because of the Vietnam War. The Mk3 was supplemented with further 4x4 production with the updated Mk4 version, which shared the cab with the 6x6 variants production of the Australian No. 1. Range of trucks were produced until 1973. The Mk3, Mk4, F1, F2 and F5 saw service until the late 1980s. ACCO. The Australian-designed and built International ACCO was first produced in 1972. The ACCO is a cab-over-engine type truck and has been offered in 4x2, 4x4, 6x2, 6x4 and 8x4 configuration. Engines used have been Cummins, Caterpillar, Detroit Diesel or GMC with Road Ranger or Allison transmissions and Rockwell differentials. The ACCO range were built to order, serving private operators, fire departments, military services and municipal departments across Australia and New Zealand. The ACCO became the most popular product of International Harvester in Australia. The ACCO continues to be manufactured to date, under the ownership of Iveco. Brazilian subsidiary, International Harvester Marquinhos SA was established with Brazilian government support as part of a project to develop a vehicle industry there. Their first product was the International S184 heavy truck. In 1966, Chrysler purchased International's Brazilian plant. U.S. truck series since 1960, Lodestar. The first-generation Lodestar was primarily used for local delivery, including school buses and fire engines. It was also used extensively in the agricultural and construction industries. It was widely recognizable by its gray grille and butterfly hood, but some late models had one-piece tilting hoods. Most had a medium-duty 4x2 chassis, but some 6x4 heavy-duty models were built. This series was replaced by the S-series in the 1970s. Models 1600, 1650, 1700, 1750, 1800, 1850, 2050, powertrain, gasoline, IHC V304 V8, IHCV 345 V8, IHCV 461 V8, IHCV 549 V8, Diesel IHC Divide 462 V8, IHC Divide 550 V8, IHC Divide 550 BV8, IHCD 150190 V8, IHCDT 466 I6. Caterpillar 1160 V8, Caterpillar 3208 V8, Detroit Diesel 6V53 NV6, Navistar 7000 series. The Navistar 7000 series is a line of military heavy-lift vehicles based on Navistar International's Workstar truck chassis, and produced by Navistar Defense. The truck is available in a variety of wheel and engine configurations. In 2005, the U.S. Army ordered 2,900 7000 MV for the Afghan National Army and Iraqi Ministry of Defense, and an additional order of 7,000 was added in 2008. The Canadian Forces Canadian Army had adopted the Navistar Defense LLC medium logistics truck. The vehicle fulfills the MSVS Milcott's requirement. As of mid-2011, the MSVS SMP vehicle has not been chosen. By June 2010, 1,300 Navistar units have replaced part of the MLVW fleet. The civilian designation of the 7000 MV is Navistar 7400 SFA 6A6. In July 2012, the order for 1,500 MSVS SMP trucks was cancelled and being re-evaluated. Operators: Afghanistan, Afghan National Army, Afghan National Police. A Bulgaria, Bulgarian Air Force. A Canada, Canadian Forces. A Colombia, Colombian Marine Corps, 24 7000 MV. A Iraq, Iraqi Armed Forces. S-Series, the International Harvester S-Series was a medium and heavy-duty truck line. In April 1977, at the New Orleans Superdome, the all-new S-Series medium-duty trucks were introduced as a replacement for the International Harvester Fleetstar. In 1979, other versions of the S-Series were introduced to succeed the Lodestar series. Like the Lodestar, the S-Series were straight trucks commonly used for local delivery. The versions replacing the Fleetstar were semi-tractors or severe service straight trucks. Additionally, the S-Series proved popular in the school bus industry. The S-Series was the last product line designed from the ground up by International Harvester themselves. It was produced in its original form until the end of the 1980s. Production of the S-Series ended in 2001. The six-wheeled versions of the S were called F-Series. In 1987, to reflect the corporate change from International Harvester to Navistar International, the S-Series received new badging. The IHC logo seen on the steering wheel was replaced by the Navistar Diamond logo. On the outside, the International name was moved from the top to the bottom of the grille. Instead of matching the grille color, all S-Series trucks wore a red International badge. In a 1989 facelift, most of the components were carried over into an updated line of medium-duty trucks with a redesigned hood and interior in 1989. These products underwent interior updates in 1992 and 1995, remaining in production until the end of the 2001 model year. Models: trucks, S1600, S1700, S1800, S1900, S2000, S2200, S2500, S2600, trucks, 4600, 4700, 4900, 8100, 8200, buses. 1853 FC front-engine Ford Control, S-Series Schoolmaster Conventional, 3400 Cutaway Cab, 3600 Semi-Ford Control, 3700 Conventional, 3800 Conventional, powertrain, gasoline engines. International Harvester. 345 cubic inch V8, 392 cubic inch V8, MV404 6.6 liter V8, MV446 7.3 liter V8. Diesel engines, V8, International Harvester 9.0L V8. D150190, 9.0L. International Harvester IDI 6.9L, International Harvester IDI 7.3L, Caterpillar 3208 10.4L. N-Line 6, International Harvester DT 365.9L, International Harvester DT 466 7.6L, Cummins M11. TranStar 8000 Series, the International 8000 Series, also known as the International TranStar line, is a regional haul tractor. It is available in two variants. They differ in engines, drivetrains, and axle configurations. The 8500 is powered by an International Heights 570 310 HP/1050 lb-FAFT with either a Fuller, 10-speed manual, Spicer, 7-speed manual, or Allison, 5-speed/6-speed automatic with a wheelbase from 128 to 201 in. Its front axle capacity is 10,000 lb or 12,000 lb. Rear single axle has a capacity of 23,000 pounds. Rear tandem axle has a capacity of 40,000 lb. Both axles are either Meritor or Dana Spicer and are available with a driver-controlled locking differential. Applications include beverage, city tractor, and regional haul. The heavier-duty 8600 model is powered by either a Caterpillar or Cummins diesel. With a wheelbase from 128 to 315 inches, its front axle is either a Meritor with a capacity of 10,000 lb, 12,000 lb, or 13,200 lb or a Dana Spicer with a capacity of 10,000 lb, 12,000 lb, 13,200 lb, or 14,000 lb. Rear single axle capacity is 23,000 lb. Rear tandem axle capacity is 40,000 lb. Both axles are either Meritor or Dana Spicer and are available with a driver-controlled locking differential. Applications include beverage, city tractor, liquid or dry bulk, and regional haul. Home. Lawn and garden. IH branched out into the home lawn and garden business in the 1960s with its line of Cub Cadet equipment, which included riding and walk-behind lawn mowers and snow blowers. Also produced were compost shredders, rotary tillers, cadet garden tractors, and power washers. The Cub Cadet line was sold to MTD Products in 1981. Home appliances. Although best known for farm equipment, IH produced home appliances for farmers and non-farmers alike. This included refrigeration equipment such as refrigerators, air conditioners and freezers. IH had a refrigeration division of its own, as did other vehicle manufacturers of the time. Ford had Philco, Chrysler had AirTemp, General Motors had Frigidaire, Nash Kelvinator Corporation had Kelvinator, Studebaker had the Franklin Appliance Company, Crossley had Crossley. The IH appliance division had originally been developed to manufacture commercial-grade items to farmers, most of whom had just received electricity by way of the many electrification projects in the U.S. before and after World War II. Among the offerings were milk coolers and walk-in freezers for produce and meat. Later on, IH courted the farmer's wife with kitchen refrigerators available in the latest designer styles. The IH spokeswoman for these products was Irma Harding, a factory trademark. These products were introduced in 1947 and sold for less than 10 years. The refrigeration division was sold to Whirlpool Corporation in 1955. Since the time of production was short, IH appliances are rare today. Other products. Weapons. In early 1951, the United States Army through the Springfield Armory contracted International Harvester to produce M1 Garand rifles, and from 1953 to 1956 produced 337,623 rifles in total, according to the Army Ordnance Department. HT-341, in 1959, International Harvester created a jet turbine-powered tractor called the International Heights 341. It was donated to the Smithsonian Institution in 1967. See also, Farmall Tractor, Farmall Cub, International Harvester Scout, International Harvester, List of International Harvester Vehicles, References, Chrisman, Frederick W., International Trucks, Minneapolis, Minnesota, Victory WW2 Publishing, ISBN A0-9700567-2-9A. External links, International Harvester History, Antique Farm All-Tractor Forums, International Harvester Forum, International Harvester Digest, The Binder Planet, All IH Light Trucks Technical Resource Website, McCormick Euro International Harvester Collection, International Harvester Tractors, International Harvester Scout Parts, International Harvester Travel Parts, Old International Harvester Truck Special Interest Group.